We've long known that corporate press has completely lost the plot, but you know what? I'm glad they made this latest move against Joe Rogan to smear him for taking cocktail of meds, including horse dewormer. I'm glad they did it. You know why? Because now regular people who know and like Joe Rogan can see these stories and go, yo, the media's lying about this. Absolutely lying. And I want you to understand just how political everything has gotten. Of course, I'm sure most of you who watch videos like mine, you already know this, but perhaps there are many people who don't. So you can share this video with them and say, look at these stories, because I'm going to show you the history of ivermectin only a few years ago. Now, it is true, absolutely true and correct, that the FDA has not approved hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin for treating a COVID. There are some doctors prescribing it because it is a drug used in humans, but far be it for me to give anybody medical advice. There is another alternative to vaccines, monoclonal antibodies or Regeneron, that is FDA approved. It is. And that's what Joe Rogan said he took first. So Joe Rogan comes out and says he's got COVID, or he had COVID. He's like, I came back, I had a headache, I had fevers, I knew what was going on, got tested, and sure enough, Joe said he had COVID. So he said he got, and he threw a bunch of the kitchen sink at it, got monoclonal antibodies, as you may know this as Regeneron. It was, I believe it put under emergency use authorization in November. I think it's fully FDA approved, but it is used for use. Trump used it. And that's one of the things Joe Rogan did take. And he does say he also took Z-Pak and ivermectin. The big issue I have right here is, as much as it's not FDA approved, and that's a fact, the media's lying and just calling it horse dewormer, right? So I'm on Twitter, right? And I made the joke that, there was a prison where the doctor was prescribing this stuff. And I said the doctor was not only prescribing horse medicine, but also instructing the inmates to ingest hydroxyc acid along with it. Where are the people calling out the forced ingestion of hydroxyc acid? Hydroxyc acid literally means water. It's a joke. The point is, the media is taking something that is far beyond just horse dewormer and calling it horse dewormer because they want clicks. Because, listen, their whole goal is just, what can we do to shock people to make money? You know, we have the Cast Castle vlog, and every day we're like, we got to get a good thumbnail and a good title, and it's a vlog, so it's not particularly newsworthy. We got to get that hook. And there's a line between overt, deceptive clickbait and like punchy titles. And so we're playing around. But I'll tell you this. I get that vlogs use snappy clickbait titles for their shows. But why is the media doing clickbait? When the media is doing it on news stories, they're lying to you, making you believe insane crackpot BS. I'm going to show you the history of ivermectin for everybody who wants to understand this. And I'll tell you this. Look, the FDA approved the community vaccine. This was from USA Today Fact Check. And there's a lot of people concerned about legal distinction between that. And the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine is FDA approved. They officially approved this is my understanding, because I did read through the letter. There's a legal distinction between the brand name Community and the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Both have the exact same formulation. The Community brand is FDA approved, and the Pfizer-BioNTech brand is EU under emergency use authorization, but they are the exact same thing. So take that for whatever it means. I don't know, whatever. That's what the FDA letter said. The issue here is, you talk to your doctor. I'm here to talk to you about politics. I'm not here to advocate for any of this stuff, any medication. I'm just here to show you how the media is lying about this. But there's another story that I do want to talk about in this regard, and that's Candace Owens. She said that she was refused a COVID test because of her politics. Now, Newsweek, of course, calls her, anti-vax or whatever. Basically, she was trying to get tested for COVID, and this facility was like, no, we know who you are, and we will not allow you in this facility. And it's like, okay, you see what's happening here? People are going insane. The media is driving them insane. The media is literally driving people insane. I've been saying it for some time. Now you need to understand. And as long as YouTube and these other outlets force us to use broken and psychotic media, we're screwed, man. Look, you may say, Tim, at least you can do your show. And it is a good sign that my show, I'm able to cut through the BS. It is a good sign that timcast.com is taking off, massively exploding, new staff members, new journalists. Those are good signs, indicative of victory. As I was saying the other day on Timcast IRL, by your mere existence, it proves that victory is not only possible, but that it's happened before. Meaning, our parents who fought again for certain ideas, and here you are today. And the fact that you are here today, standing up and speaking out, proves that victory is possible. And your parents having you proves it happened before. So there is cause for optimism. So I'll say this. I think it's good. In the long run, whatever. When the media comes out and says Donald Trump did X, Y, or Z and it's a lie, it's hard to debunk these things because people just hate Donald Trump. Now, of course, you have the tribal cult and they're looking at the stuff and they're just like, I'm going to believe whatever the media says. The important thing here is Joe Rogan is not controversial. The media wants to say he is a controversial podcaster, has COVID. He's not. He's the most popular podcaster on the planet. Regular people know and like Joe Rogan. He's not a far right guy. He's actually kind of a left-wing guy, but he's like a regular dude in his demeanor and his behavior. That's why people like his show. And he's funny. And he gets some things wrong. And sometimes he corrects them. And sometimes his corrections are bad. What was it? There was one story where he was talking about, he said something like Antifa was starting fires in the Pacific Northwest, something like that. And then came back out and said he was wrong. It didn't happen. But the reality is there was one guy. So the mistake he made was using the plural. So anyway, I'm like, that correction was a mistake. But Joe's a good dude that people like. People love listening to his podcast. It's interesting. And he's genuinely trying to be honest with you. So when the media comes out and lies like crazy, now you've got something special. Because there are regular people. Okay, I went on the Joe Rogan podcast several times. I think I went on 3 times. And there are people who are like, I thought Tim was this, unbiased voice when he appeared on Rogan. And then I went to his channel and realized he's just a right-wing hack or whatever. Okay. You see, the issue is on Joe Rogan's show, you have a lot of people who are uninitiated, normies, regular people who don't know the detail of, say, like the Ukraine scandal with Joe Biden and the multiple investigations into Burisma for corruption that were ongoing and that were ended when Joe Biden demanded a quid pro quo. There are people who will hear me on Joe Rogan talk about basic things and talk about what's wrong with Trump and his behavior and the problems with the Democratic Party. And they'll be like, there you go. Then they'll come to my channel where it's higher level and more esoteric commentary. And they'll be like, what is this? Bah. So here's what happens. These regular people now, if you come to them and you say, hey, it's not true. Donald Trump, the very fine people thing is not real. Donald Trump did not call white nationalists very fine people. He said, quote, they should be condemned totally. They'll say, that's not true. I know it's not true. You're lying. I hate Donald Trump. Okay, now they're lying about Joe Rogan again, but this time it's much, much more obvious. So the way I see it is we need 1,000 more stories like this about Joe Rogan talking about horse dewormer, because then regular people who don't believe it and think you're being biased when you call out the media will be like, yo, they're lying about Joe. Joe fills stadiums. Him and Dave Chappelle, what do? They did a stadium show and like tens of thousands of people. Yeah. Rolling Stone says, crazy times. Joe Rogan got COVID and ate a cocktail of meds, including a horse dewormer. The only thing I can say is, who cares? It's none of your business if he goes to a doctor and a doctor makes a decision for him. That's it. I thought we were supposed to be all about bodily autonomy and pro-choice. And so if Joe Rogan went to the doctor and the doctor said, here's what we're going to do, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to say anything about it, positive or negative. Just the media's lying about what's going on. Joe Rogan said he tested positive for COVID and then imbibed an array of drugs to try and fight it, including the horse dewormer ivermectin. You see, this is the crazy thing. Did you ask Joe for a comment? Did his doctor recommend certain things? Regeneron. Okay, let me pull up Regeneron. I'll just make sure we get all the facts here. Regeneron. They say on October 7th, Trump posted a 5-minute video to Twitter reasserting that this drug should be free. The same day, Regeneron filed with the FDA for emergency use authorization. In the filing, it specified that it currently had 50,000 doses and that it expected to reach a total of 300,000 doses within the next few months. The FDA granted approval for emergency use authorization in November 2020. This is monoclonal antibodies. All right, right here, monoclonal antibodies. Regeneron's, they've got, I believe I thought it was FDA approved. Let me See if they've got anything up here. I don't know if it's fully FDA approved, but it does say it is for emergency use authorization and a treatment for COVID. Joe Rogan came out and mentioned he got a bunch of other drugs, Z-Pak and stuff. But the first thing he says is monoclonal antibodies. So did he go to the doctor and the doctor said this is an emergency use authorized treatment for COVID and you should take it? And that was the real issue. And maybe the doctor said, here's why I recommend these things. Yo, for all you know, Joe Rogan went to the doctor and he was like, hey, I think I got COVID. And the doctor was like, well, take monoclonal antibodies. And then also for your butt parasite, here's ivermectin. I don't know. I'm not his doctor. But I love how the media plays this game. Check it out. You go to Google. Joe Rogan says he has COVID, took widely discredited drug ivermectin. Widely discredited? Ivermectin has not been approved by the FDA for use to treat COVID. I have had people on Timcast IRL who are proponents of it, and I have not been convinced. Okay, and there are people who very much think it's ineffective, but the truth is, we've got a story from Reuters. Oxford University explores anti-parasitic drug ivermectin as COVID-19 treatment. There are many studies saying they've seen positive results, and there are many studies saying they've seen nothing. There are some people saying the concern is people could take too much, the amount you need is too high, or ultimately it's just inconclusive because there's too many different studies. So a lot of people have said that they believe the reason ivermectin is being restricted is because if there's any alternative treatment, then they can't have their emergency use authorization for the vaccines. It is true, according to the FDA, if there is an approved and effective treatment for a disease or circumstance or whatever, then you cannot have emergency use authorization. But that isn't an argument, my friends, because they could just create an emergency use authorization for ivermectin if they wanted to. It's because there's conflicting studies. And a lot of people think there's some big conspiracy. I really, really don't. But I ultimately just don't think it matters all that much if someone's doctor makes a decision for them. It's none of my business. Monoclonal antibodies, Regeneron, are under EUA, I believe. So if you're like, they just want everyone to take the vaccine, then why do they have Regeneron available? Okay. It's expensive, I guess. It is expensive, but it exists. If the reality was they didn't want there to be an alternate treatment, that they could still put ivermectin under EUA, emergency use authorization, and just like Regeneron is. I think the issue is they're still exploring it. It's not easy. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to give you advice. Reuters says the University of Oxford said on Wednesday that it was testing anti-parasitic drug ivermectin as a possible treatment for COVID-19 as part of a British government-backed study that aims to aid recoveries in non-hospital settings. They say ivermectin resulted in a reduction of virus replication in laboratory studies, the university said, and in a small pilot showed giving the drug early could reduce viral load and the duration of symptoms in some patients with mild COVID-19. Dubbed Principle, the British study in January showed that antibiotics, azithromycin and doxycycline, were generally ineffective against early-stage COVID-19. Here's the issue I have with this. We had Dr. Chris Martenson, very, very smart guy, on the show, on Timcast IRL. We did it in the members-only section because YouTube is ban-happy. And I don't even know if this video will get, this video might get banned. But he said, here are all of these studies saying ivermectin is good. And I pulled them up, and sure enough, there are studies saying this, just like this one that says it reduces, viral replication. Then I simply Google searched, a story, and it said that those studies were bad studies. And I said, look at this. This assessment by university says those studies are no good because their methodology was bad. And he's like, oh, well, you can't trust that. And so then I pulled up a study that said a bunch of studies that said ivermectin didn't work and was told, well, that science is bad. And I'm like, yo, if I can do a Google search and I find a story says yay and a story says nay, who am I to just arbitrarily decide which one is true and correct? And it becomes very political and tribal. So let me just seriously just break this down once and for all in this stuff, because the media lies all the time. Let me show you this. Newsweek. From 2015, ivermectin, drug for parasitic diseases developed by Nobel Prize winners, could also control malaria. Long-lasting pill that releases malaria drug for 2 weeks, a game changer. Once again, about ivermectin. Anti-parasitic drug is, what does this one say? Could make your blood deadly to mosquitoes. Once again, talking about ivermectin. Nobel Prize winning drug, ivermectin, may fight malaria 5 years ago. Meeting Bill Campbell, the Nobel Prize winner for medicine because of ivermectin. Here's one. Nobel Prize awarded to 3 scientists for parasite-fighting therapies. When the media comes out and says horse dewormer over and over and over again, it's like the past few years didn't even happen, and ivermectin having won Nobel Prizes is meaningless. The way Reuters puts it is correct and very simple. They're exploring an anti-parasitic drug, ivermectin, as a COVID-19 treatment. I do not believe there is this grand conspiracy because, I mean, maybe, whatever, I don't know. I just don't believe in conspiracies. Regeneron exists, and Joe Rogan was able to take monoclonal antibodies, I'm assuming was Regeneron. It's a brand name, so I don't know exactly. But Joe says it, that he got prescribed an emergency use authorization, FDA, EUA, medical treatment for treating COVID, and he feels better, and he took other stuff. Instead of saying that Regeneron works or it helps people, abate the worst symptoms, they come out and just say horse dewormer 50 million times. But I want to make sure I stress this point for all of you, because I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to hate on me for it and they're going to comment. But let's talk about the truth. If ivermectin was as effective as people thought it was, the FDA could implement an emergency use authorization. I believe for the most part that they don't know if it actually is going to work. In which case they're like, okay, if we have to tell people, here are things that can help. What can we do? Well, they very heavily promote the vaccine, for one, despite them now saying there's booster requirements and things like that. I think that rocks people's confidence. Absolutely. You put all these studies out talking about the efficacy being reduced and then boosters being required, and people are going to stop, trusting it. But hey, guess what? They still have the EUA on these things because there is no effective treatment, right? There's no approved alternative treatment, which means you also have Regeneron, emergency use authorization. I hope you understand my point. Regeneron, the FDA believes, works. Joe Rogan took effect. I don't know if it was exactly Regeneron, but he took monoclonal antibodies, which is what Regeneron is. And Joe Rogan feels better. I'm not here to play tribal politics. I'm not here to be like, the government is doing things because they're evil, or the Democrats. I'm here to criticize people who are hypocrites. I'm here to criticize the media. I'm here to point out that the Democrats will come out and say they're pro-choice all day and night, and that you should have full medical autonomy for your body. Unless it comes to vaccines, then there should be mandates. How about this? How about New York City implement a Regeneron mandate or whatever? Ultimately, let me just say, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I can easily point out at least one hole in the whole ivermectin thing. Okay? Regeneron exists. It is an alternate to the vaccine in terms of treating COVID. Why wouldn't they do the same for hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin if they thought that to be the case? Some people say it's because ivermectin is cheap and people want to make money. Well, capitalism, man, profit motive and all that stuff, that I understand for sure. But I can't make those assumptions, right? I've talked to people about this. I understand there's a lot of people who are scientists, who are smarter than me, who make these claims. But am I just supposed to believe that there's like a good and evil going on, and some people are lying for some reason and some people aren't? And these other scientists who are saying it was inconclusive are doing so because they want to help a private pharmaceutical company? Yo, you're getting deep, and you're making some assumptions that I can't get to. By all means, you're free to believe whatever you want. Take everything I've said, and if you disagree with me, use that to arm yourself in future arguments, and then have these questions ready. But ultimately, what it comes down to is when the media claims ivermectin is just horse dewormer, regular people can see that. And they can see what Joe Rogan said to his legions of fans. Because this video, I don't know how many views it got. It probably has millions of views on his Instagram. Joe's got 13 million followers. His other videos, just doing like little like tidbits, gets like 2 million. And they're going to be like, oh, he did a bunch of these things. Okay, good for him. Instead of saying that an FDA-approved emergency use treatment, monoclonal antibodies, helped Joe Rogan overcome this, they simply say he took a cocktail of meds and horse dewormer. So when regular people see it, they're going to be like, yo, that's complete BS. Now, here's the problem. Why is YouTube going to ban me or anybody else for talking about this stuff? Because of the media, because the media lies. So this video, make it pull down, whatever. We got to talk about the truth. We got to tell the truth. And that's what needs to happen. You can see it's all becoming just overtly political. When Candace Owens, here, I have the tweet here. Candace Owens got an email. I've just learned of this testing request, And as the owner of this business, I'm going to refuse this booking and deny service. We cannot support anyone who has proactively worked to make the pandemic worse by spreading misinformation, politicizing and discouraging the wearing of masks, and actively dissuading people from receiving life-saving vaccinations. The only other local testing option is the free kiosk by City Hall. They mail their test to Texas and have inconsistent result times. Do not take appointments. So it's walk-in only midday weekdays in their back alley. What? This is insane. My team and myself have worked overtime to exhaustion, unpaid and underpaid this past year, spending our own capital to ensure that our community remains protected. It would be unfair to them and to the sacrifices we have all made this year to serve you. My friends, we have a lot of people come on the Timcast IRL podcast. We've got someone different every day, Monday through Friday. No one here has gotten sick, and I'm glad that's the case. We have had guests who have gotten sick in the past, and I think we have one guest who around a month or two after appearing did get COVID. We've had people who come on the show and talk about their experiences getting COVID. Yo, it's bad. I'm not saying it's the apocalypse, but I think it was Michaela Peterson. I'm not entirely sure, but we had a lot of people who are just like explaining what it was like when they got COVID. It sounds bad, man. It's like double flu. It's like worse than the flu, right? I've had the flu before. It's awful. I wouldn't want to get anything worse than that. Even if it does have, for someone in my age group, a low risk factor, it's like, I don't want to get it. I don't want to get sick, period. I got work to do, man. So I'll put it this way. I think we can be reasonable people and take this stuff seriously and have honest conversations about what medication and what things seem to make sense. But ultimately, it's down to you and your doctor, period, no matter what. That's always been the position I've been in for basically everything. Because I don't want the government intervening, and I don't know where that line is where the government does intervene. I just think you've got tribal politics playing everything. Joe Rogan is controversial, so saith. I think CNN said it. He's not. He's the most popular podcaster. He's like the biggest show. It's bigger than all late night cable shows, bigger than Tucker Carlson, all of that stuff. Pretty sure it's bigger than Tucker for sure. And that's what people want to listen to. Those are the conversations they want to listen to. And so you know what? If we're going to wake people up to the lies of the media, I'm glad they're saying over and over again horse medicine when ivermectin is won some scientist the Nobel Prize. And it's also true it's not FDA approved and there's no emergency use authorization. And you can believe that is whatever you want. Like you can believe whatever reason you want as to why that is. I'm not going to make assumptions about intent or draw any conspiracy theories on the case. I just don't know. All I know is you will not come to me for medical advice. And if you take issue with your doctor because you don't like them, you got a bad doctor. We've had conservatives, Trump supporters on the show who have Trump supporting conservative doctors who go to their doctors and get medical advice, and it varies. Sometimes the doctor says you're ineligible because of this underlying condition, or they recommend it even when they're Trump supporting conservative doctors. I just think the culture war is ruining everything. And you might not like your doctor. Find a good doctor that you can know and trust. Talk to your doctor about what you see in the media. Ask them these questions. See how they respond. And make sure you are in a situation where you trust the other person. Because I'll tell you this. The more the media puts out this garbage, the more they sow distrust. And what we need more than anything is for you not to trust me on these things. Question me, challenge me. You need to trust people close to you and not the internet people and the TV people and the TV doctors. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.